he knows my family, and go through Herman. I think he spoke with the club last year. He does a lot of offshore fishing. I've seen him out on the water battling a swordfish in person. Uh, he does good work. So I figured he could talk to us a little bit about sword fishing that he's doing a lot of now, and just talk to us about something a little different.
All right, man. Well, guys, thanks for having me, and it's nice to see you guys again.
Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, I actually ran into Carlos. Funny story. I was on a charter, and we hooked a big swordfish, like a 400, 350, and the owner of the boat that told me, "Oh, I have a harpoon. I have everything." Well, he had the harpoon, but no tip and no basket, so we just had a big stick. And Carlos was on a boat with a guy that I knew, a guy named Bernie. It's a salesman for Sea Hunter, and he was out there with some friends, and he came over and got me the harpoon and got me everything I needed. And as the boat's pulling away, Carlos goes, "Noel, is that you?" And pulls down his buff, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Carlos, how are you, man?" And then from there, we stayed in contact again. So we didn't end up landing the swordfish. The captain let the fish get in the props, and she got off. But it was a big,
Ooh.
and it's probably the biggest one that I've hooked this season. And she got away. So, but that's one thing you guys are gonna learn when talking sword fishing. There's always gonna be fish that get away, and they are escape artists, and they do things. They are the unicorns and the apex predators, I think, of the ocean. They really don't have a predator other than a mako shark, and the mako shark won't mess with them because the speeds that they move, the things that they can do with their bills is amazing. And but yeah, so anyways, I'm gonna cover Carlos, how much time do I have so I know not to go so far?
Hurry up, man.
Yeah, I'll stop you in about an hour and a half.
As long as you want.
Yeah,
All right, so I'm gonna cover day timing. There's two ways to catch swordfish recreationally, and one of those is daytime sword fishing. That came about probably about 20 years ago and was a big secret for 10 years. And that's where the Nick family. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the story and how it all happened here down in Florida, but typically swordfish won't caught at night forever and ever. Nobody ever thought, oh no, they don't bite during the day. And somebody in the other side of the world, I believe in Venezuela, said, hey, one day I'm gonna fish on this far out and drop a bunch of bricks down with a squid and hand line a fish up and see what bit. And it was a swordfish. And somebody found out about that here, went over there, brought what they learned here and incorporated into our Gulf Stream, which is a huge factor in our sword fishing compared to anywhere other place in the world. Brought that over here and discovered a fishery that nobody knew about for almost 10 years until we got out social media, and now everybody's doing it, and it's gaining popularity every day, and I tell people all the time when they call me, it's probably the only fish in Florida you can catch that's going to be a monster. You can go out there and catch a 50-pound dolphin. That's awesome. Great. You're gonna go. You could hook a 400-pound blue marlin, but you got a shot at a 500-pound or a Florida record that was recently caught. I want to say a month ago up in Hillsborough Inlet. That was 768, I believe. So, it's something great. So, anyways, to get started, there's a lot of things we got to cover and a lot of things that happen. So, if you guys have questions or anything, don't be afraid to stop me, ask me the question, and I'll explain it. Sword fishing is a very, I like to say, scientific, technical fishing. It's not your typical show up to the reef, throw the anchor, let's all have beers and call it yellowtails and let's see what happens. Whatever happens, happens. No, we have the Gulf Stream. And, we got to deal with sometimes a 5-mile-an-hour, 6-mile-an-hour current with a southeast wind or a north wind or a strong east wind. Sword fishing becomes very, very hard. Because what ultimately ends up happening is that your rod tip is straight up and down, but your bait is about 600 feet in front of you, 300 feet. I don't know the exact amount, but because of the Gulf Stream pushing your line, you get a belly. So it's a lot of technical stuff. You got to understand, the topography of the earth, how the bottom of the ocean is laid out. There's tools out there today like Seymour Maps. Garmin has their own mapping system. There's a couple out there, and I use Seymour Maps and I've used them all, and that's the best ones out there, hands down. But
That's on the internet only, right? I mean, you order those and you print them out?
No. Seymour Maps comes in a case like this, and then here I have my not a transducer, but I have a normal screen. Normal screen.
Oh, okay.
You know, but it doesn't tell me. It's like your normal GPS that you have on your boat, but it has a chip that goes inside of there that has the bottom of the ocean mapped out for you.
Yeah, that's like Florida Marine Tracks.
I assume. I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah,
So, I've seen.
that's where my buddy Frank Cassidy used to tell me about Seymour's.
Yeah. So, anyways, getting down to the basics and why do people fish with electrics? And again, the Gulf Stream. Sometimes we gotta use weights up to 15 pounds. I know other guys that I fish with that use 20 sometimes on high current days. You know, sometimes you go out there and you got hardly no current, you know, and that's not good either. But you go out there and you want my preferred rod, what I like to use, this is big heavy bad boy, which is an LP. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it.
Whoa.
So what makes the LP great? What makes the LP great is that depending on current situation, what kind of fishing I'm doing, I could always pop my spool in and out. There's no need to, you just pop 50-pound braid and you got, oh man, I got to fish with 30-pound. You got to pull it off, none of that stuff. So, and I fish with 65 and 80 only. So that, but anyways, you got to use an LP. You can use a hooker electric. You can use a crystal. What else? There's another couple ones out there, but those are the three that I would stay with, and LP being the first one, hooker electric being the second, and then crystal being the third. And I've used them. I haven't used the crystal, but I heard great things about it. But I've used the hookers, I've used the LPs, and the older LPs are better. Not the new. The variable speeds have their technique to it, and we'll get to that. And they have, and that's what the hooker plays the feature into it. But the LP just is a perfect speed because those swordfish's mouth are like rubber. They're soft plastic rubber. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen a swordfish in person, but the inside of their mouth, if you don't hook them, just to give you an example, this is from a 330. If you don't hook them, this is the inside part, the top part. This is the inside part right here. This is the top where the cartilage, where his eyes sit. On the inside here, if you don't get them on this part or get them to eat it down the hatch, you're gonna have a long fight because you got to baby it all the way up. You can't put any more than, once you get the lead off, any more than like 15 to 12 pounds of pressure on them. You got to keep them nice and easy, and that's what makes these fights go from 45 minutes to 3 hours sometimes for a 200-pound fish.
You can understand how you hooked him?
Sometimes I can, absolutely. Sometimes you foul hook them and then you can tell. There's different ways, but you never want to take your chances until you see the fish jump. If I see the fish jump and I don't see my skirt that I rigged on my bait sticking out of the side of his mouth, I know it's down the hatch and let's go. Let's get him to the boat fast. You don't want to overdo it, but you still want to put a little bit more pressure on there. 30 pounds, 20, whatever you set the hook at, that's the farthest I go. And that fish is gonna, eventually come up. But sometimes you hook them on the dorsal fin, and I'll show you guys a video shortly of that. And that fish just stays down the whole way down and fights you like no tomorrow and takes you 2.5 hours, but you get him up. He just comes swimming up and you got to get the harpoon, but and that's not coming out. You can put as much pressure as you want, but that dorsal fin on the top there, if you hook them good, not coming out. Or same thing on the armpit, on the pec, same thing, they don't come out. But anyways, so let me get to the whole preparation and what it takes to go out there and swordfish. So you have your reel of choice that you're gonna go out there, and you're gonna have, I like to use 65-pound braid, and I use Daiwa J braid. And when I first started sword fishing about 4 years ago, everything in sword fishing is expensive. This is not a sport that, you're going to go in there, you're going to buy a 50 wide and a couple liters. No. You're going to spend a good chunk of change. You don't want your wives finding out, guys. So you're going to get into it, and your leads, you go buy leads from Crook and Crook or any bait store. 10-pound lead's $50. You hook bottom, your leader's $50, that's $50. And if you bought a bait from a bait shop, it's $30-$40. So right off there, you lost a couple bucks plus your fuel. So it's an expensive sport, but once you figure it out and understand what's happening, it becomes a lot better. And you see that, they say we have this saying that any monkey can go out there and catch a swordfish. It's what can you do on different situations. It's a very friendly sport to new people coming into the game, I will say, because it's the same thing, right place at the right spot. These fish don't sit in one spot like at the reef, you know? These fish are coming up and down from Rhode Island all the way down to the freaking Bahamas and going around to, you know, South America. They're one of the fish that are found in almost every body of ocean. So, and if I'm not mistaken, maybe all of them. But so anyways, you get your rod out there. I like to use, and this is a rod that I bought at Crook and Crook, and I've had it for 4 years already. It's the first rod I bought, and I fell in love with it. I'm 5'10", so it's a 6-foot rod. I use a light tip so I can see the bite, and I'm gonna show you guys a video of when something was going on, when the bite happened. But and then you're gonna have your leaders. You gotta tie, you tie your bimini, and you got your leaders, and you tie them on with a cat's paw, put it through, and then that takes patience, because sometimes these guys that spool these leaders, they don't put them back together right sometimes, so you have to take your time letting them out of the reel. Don't just throw it in the ocean and expect, because now you're gonna have to 150 feet of tangled 250 pound or 300, whatever you like to use. So you have that. These already come with a wax loop where you connect your weight, your 10 pound, 12 pound, light current days down in the Keys, you're going to use 6-8 pounds sometimes. Down in the Keys, you have a lighter current. Up here, from Miami all the way up to Stewart, we have a roof current. So, but there are days that the currents aren't bad. So, but anyway, so once you got all that stuff there, now you got to get your bait on. And what I do is I put my lights, and to be honest with you, there's no light down there. I believe down to like 1,000 feet, 800 feet, it just blacks out. But there's absolutely no light down there. And what happens is when you guys got your systems on board there with your 1 kW or 3 kW sonar, you're gonna see on your GPS there's little tiny particles or something. You're gonna be like, dude, is my sonar in freaking demo mode? Like, what's going on? I just got here to the right spot or something, And what that's going to be is tiny little particles, that you see on the Discovery Channel, like little shrimps, little krills, all little kind of things, and eggs. Because as you're picking your lineup, you're going to see like orange slime and eggs on it. That's all life from down there, And sometimes it'll blow your mind how far up in the water column there are. You just pick up 300 feet and you already got that stuff coming in. You're like, wow, And what happens is there's bioluminescence down there. I don't know if you guys have ever been running at night on the reef and then coming in, all of a sudden you see like the water turning green and you're splashing the back, those bioluminescence little things that they turn green when they get stressed out. Swordfish went by, a squid, something made them stress out to turn green. And what happens down there is that when a swordfish gets down there and sees the bait and all that stuff, he starts going crazy. So there's light. So he knows there's life down there. There's something trying to find them. So that's why we use lights, Can you catch them without a light? Absolutely. Don't believe you can do anything. And I've seen people catch them with chicken rigs. You can do it, but this is the right way to do it. There's a lot of things that come into play in this whole technique and the whole science behind it. And the lights that I like to use are these little diamond lights. I don't know if you guys have seen them before. Crook and Crook sells them, I think. Here they are. I have a couple in the box. So one of these LED lights, and Linger and Pittman makes a good one too. They're a little bit more. They're like $13. My recommendation, guys, is don't go on Amazon if you guys are ever gonna do this, and even for deep dropping, if you guys are gonna go deep drop somewhere, don't buy those ones from Amazon, even though they're a good deal. What happens is that what will drive you crazy is that light will not turn off half the time, or they blow up underwater, and you're fishing, for drift is 45 minutes to a half hour, sometimes an hour. You got no lights down there. They freaking turned off, So spend a little bit of money on these. They're expensive, but it's worth having them. And I surf when the weather's good. I'm sword fishing them every day, and I've had the same pack this whole swordfish season. So I bought I think 15 of them, and I've had 15 the whole season so far. I've lost a couple because of bottom, but everything else I haven't had any failures. And that's something that's big in this game, is that you cannot have failures. You have to have a plan. You have to understand what everybody's going to do and explain to your crew what's going to happen today. Yeah, we're gonna sit out there, and it could be 5 minutes into the game, or it can be 8 hours, 10 hours. You know, I've had it where not a single bite all day, and all of a sudden, the guy sitting up north in Pompano, I can hear him on the radio. Hey, I'm on. And all of a sudden, it turns on, man, and I can hear the guys in Fort Lauderdale. I'm on. And it's trickling down to where the sun's coming down. I'm finally getting a bite and getting a fish, and and getting home Sunday night at 10 o'clock at night, and explaining what the hell I was doing, fishing till 10 o'clock at night, starting at 6 in the morning. So, I tell people, when you explain this to them, it's like snook fishing. You go out snook, and I don't know too much about snook other than they live in the docks here and they're fun to catch on the beach. And I tell people that snook are fish that you see, under a dock, and they're not eating. And they're there. They're just sitting there. And something happens. I don't know what it is, but one starts to eat, and they all start eating. And it's nonstop for 5-10 minutes, however the bite lasts. Swordfish are very similar in that sense. A lot of it has to do with the moon. I fish around the moon. I have a logbook that I've kept, and pressure has something to do with this when the pressure is rising. And there's no way for you to know when the pressure is going to rise, because every morning, you don't have reception out there to see what's going on. If you had a reception out there, you could check apps and stuff. So, but when the moon rises, sometimes the moon rises during the day. That's normally the best time where the bite happens, when the moon's on top of you and when it's dropping. Once it's under you, it's whatever. I commercial fish for swordfish at night, and we call it the dinner bell. While we're sitting out there at 1 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden that moon starts to come up, and it looks like full moon. It looks like the sun's coming out. And I can't tell you how many times we've had triples, quads, 5 fish on at one time when that happens. And there's something about that moon and how those fish bite. But anyway, so getting back to the whole drop and what's going to happen, you explain to your crew what's going to happen. The bite's going to take a long time sometimes. It's a very dangerous fish. I've seen accidents happen to people. I've heard of people dying, thinking they could spear one. And the fish, is coming out the boats. I mean, I've had several fish stab the props, coming after the props guy. Captain wasn't fast enough on the wheel, and fish sticks his thing, and all of a sudden he's sticking through the props, and freaking between the 300s, and things are slashing all back there, and you're trying to get the gaff in there, and you got the fish almost on the boat alive. Fish does amazing things, and it's aggressive fish. They want to go back home. They don't want you to get them. So, but with that being said, so we're going out. You got all that. I like to use 300-pound tests on my baits. I rig my own baits. Bait Masters makes a great bait. I recommend their baits if you don't know how to rig baits or take the time to do it, because it's 100% worth it. The hooks are going to be your most costly hooks. What I use is I use a Jobu Tenno owner right here, and that hook, it's got depending on the bait that I use bonito bellies, bonito tacos, where you take the skin all the way down, the meat all the way down, and you fold them over, and you make like a swimmer, and it swims down in the current. I've used eels. Depending on what it is what hook I use. But this is the Jobu owner. Comes with a little bit. This is this is a Mustad. I forget the model that it is, but this is a Tenno. They're both Tennos, but this one's got more of a round tip in, and this one's got more of an open straight. And I like to use this hook. This is my favorite hook, and the Procula makes a set that is good, but I need a fat bait for it because they got a real big opening, but real good. But this has been the best hook for me. And one thing that you guys gotta understand too is that these hooks don't always come sharp. These things are made in the Pacific Rim somewhere, I believe. I don't care what anybody tells you. And you gotta sharpen them. So buy yourself a sharpener, and nothing much to it, All you gotta do is just go down on the top, on the sides real quick here on the top. And now this was a brand new hook out of the box, and you guys can see I just sharpened it. A couple seconds. Makes the biggest difference in the world, but be careful, sharp hook. So, you put your bait out, you can buy squids. I don't personally like to use squids unless I'm night timing. The only squids that I do use are the squids that I catch when I'm sword fishing, when I snag them and they come up. I normally rig them right away, and most of the time I get a bite and make them happen, and then they normally swallow it down the hatch. And but my favorite bait is a mahi belly. I take a mahi, cut from his right on top, right under his fins, and cut all the way straight down, just leaving about maybe about an inch all the way down to the tail, where I give it a nice little whip action on the bait, and you take all the stuff out of the bellies, you put your hook through it. It's not real hard, you know, it takes some time, but you put it through and you sew it all up. You know, I use 50-pound, you know, and I could make a video and show you guys one day how it's done. It's not real hard. But that's my favorite bait, hands down. Why I think it's a hardy bait. Those fish, when they bite, they slash a lot. They might hit I've had some, I believe that some have hung around me for 30, 45 minutes. So they come up and they whack the bait. They don't just always inhale it. It's not, you know, one of those kind of bites. So, but anyways, going with the mahi belly, we're dropping the bait. We have the Gulf Stream here, guys. So you're always going to drop your bait when you're letting your bait out, letting your line out, everything goes on. You get your long line clip that's on your weight, on your 10-pound lead or 12-pound. Most of the time I'm fishing here in Miami, right off the bat, I pull 12-pound just because I know how the current is here, you know, just right off the bat. And clip your long line clip on. Don't use a snap swivel. Long line clips, they're $1.39. You clip it right onto your line. The wax loop, I don't clip it onto the line, on the wax loop. And I'll get to that. And, you know, send your bait out. You're going north. And on the LP, that's got the revolutions. If you're using a hook or electric, some of them have a screen to tell you how much line's out, and some of them don't. If you're doing it like on a crystal or something like that, you might not have it. And you're letting your line out. And what I do is, you know, when I'm fishing with a crew that knows what's going on, I'm doing it completely different. But if I'm fishing with you guys to teach you guys how to do it, and you guys are going to go out and try and accomplish this is how I would do it. You're going to go out there, you're going to let your line out. You're going to let out, you know, about 200 feet of line out. You already got 150 feet of leader out. You just threw your lead. So now it's going down, down, down. So let about 200 feet more line go out. Stop it. Keep the boat going forward like you're trolling, 6, 7 knots. If the line's staying too close to the boat, just, you know, give it a little bit more, but don't go more than 10 knots. You know, boom, drop another 200 feet, 300 feet. Hold it. Let the line come back in, come back in, come back in. Right now, what's happening is that line's dropping, but you're picking up all that belly and that line that was created when you dropped it. So it's coming back in, coming back in. When you get right under 600 feet, I always stop it at 800 again. And I hold it and give it some time, because now that bait is going to come out of the Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream is only about 600 feet deep. After that, there's no current down there. It's just normal, nothing, you know. So that's what the scientists say, and that's what I understand from the guys that taught me how to swordfish. So once you're down there, you have your bait down there. I at 800 revolutions, I turn the boat south now at this point. And what ends up happening is now I open the bail, let all the line go out, and now we spin the boat more like a pivot with 2 motors, put one in reverse, other one in forward, pivot the boat, and start coming back up on the line. Now your rod is on, I normally fish it on my port side, right next to whoever's driving, a rod holder there. And you need a 0 degree. I like a 0 degree swivel. Some people like 15, but I use a very long rod, so I like 0. But you need to have a rod with a backing plate. You just can't go put this on your rod holder and go out. You know, an LP will just, you hook a big fish, will rip the gunnels off your boat or crack your gunnels. You need a backing plate on that. So anyways, you're coming back up on that line. You're just going up nice and easy. And your heading is going to be normally, because you just drop, you're going to be about 180 to 220 in that range. And again, you got wind. So we're just saying we got a straight south wind right now, you know, and you're coming back on that bait and the line's going down. And once you get up and down, stop it, let the line come out, see, because now you're going to think you're up and down. But what ends up happening is your line is going to be like this at an angle, and it's going to be way out in front. So you got to drive up on that, let that weight fall. And once you got that weight falling, now you have your bait's out, and you're at probably, I would say, around 1,500 feet. But you're fishing 1,700 feet, 1,800 feet of water. You still got a little bit more. Let it out, drive up on it. And what ends up happening is, again, you know, your bait hits bottom, you see your line straight up and down, but there's this huge belly in the line, and your bait's way out here. at this time, you're driving south. You do not turn north now for nothing unless you have a fish. And depending on which way the wind's coming is how you got to drive the boat. You know, you just try and stay in that heading between 180 and 220. You'll figure it out where you'll see where, okay, you know, the wind's blowing at this direction. I'm going to stay right now at 200. And you're just looking at your line, staying up and down with it, remembering that the current is going north. So if you go too far up on the line and the line goes by the front of the boat, behind the boat, and you went too far, just relax, put the boat in neutral, turn it to the way you want it, and that line's going to come back to you. But what's happening is that you're moving north. Even though your boat's moving at about 1 knot, 2 knots south, you're actually moving north. You're going to see it on your GPS. You're going to be going north. So what you're doing is covering a body of water. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you guys what.
Hang on a second. Let me give you permission. Okay, you should be able to do it now.
Share my screen with you. The area of body of water we're going to be doing for fishing. Where is it? Oh, here we go. All right, hold on. So, you guys see Google Earth right now?
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
hold on, let me move you guys. You guys are over the area that I need to see. So, all right, here's Miami. You know, this is Biscayne Bay, all this area. Fowey's right around here. All this area right here, this is where all those swordfish live, man. And it's no secret. There's no secret spot. You know, you just got to put in the time and know whether there's 1,700 feet today, 1,400 feet of water, 1,800 feet of water, 2,000 feet of water. You just got to know. I'll be honest with you. My favorite depth to fish, and it's no secret because all you got to do is go out there on a Saturday or Sunday and see me sitting out there, is 1,600 to 1,700 feet of water. You know, that's my sweet spot. Depending, I also commercial fish, so I get intel that other people don't have. Because the way I fish at night, I fish 35 buoys that aren't connected. It's not long lining, it's buoys. And anyways, you have those drifting north, and I typically know where those fish are sitting, according to the reports I get and what I catch. So in the summertime, I've noticed that they're in shallower sometimes when nobody's getting a bite. I'll actually fish in 1,400, 1,300 feet of water right out here in Miami. And I've gotten a lot of fish like that. Not real big ones. I say about 100, 150. The bigger fish, for whatever reason, come now during this time right now, and it'll probably be around for the next 2 weeks, probably, and then the other big ones will be down in the Keys now. And I'll get to that and the migration and all that stuff and stuff that you guys should follow with that. All right. So right now, I'm going to show you guys now what's happening now. So I told you guys we're drifting right now. This is north, this is south, east, and west. This is your tip rod. When I talk tip rod, that's the rod that's fishing the bottom. There's another way to fish with a buoy rod, and I'll explain that very briefly now. But let's worry about the tip rod, because that's the one question I get asked. Hey, can we put another line out? Can we put this? And you got to have a crew that knows what's going to happen when the fish gets hooked, because everybody wants to throw the harpoon, everybody wants to gaff the fish, and everybody wants to record. So everybody's got to understand, this is your job, this is what it is, and when you catch the fish, everybody catches the fish. So you got a crew to do 2 rods. But where did my mouse go? Dude, this is crazy. Okay, here we go. All right, so here's your rod, here's your boat, here's your tip rod. Your line, remember I told you you're driving, and now it's all the way over here. And this is where your weight is.
You guys see
showing?
the,
We're only showing the map.
Oh, you're only showing the map?
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry.
There you go.
All right. Okay, you guys see it now?
Coming. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you guys see my little stick figure drawing here?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so south, you're pointing south right now. This is your tip rod right here that I was telling you guys. This is what I talk about that's fishing the bottom. So your bait is down here. Your line's like this, and it's going all the way out here. All right, and you're drifting, and your weight's down here. What happens now is you keep driving, right? That rod tip, and I'm gonna show you a video that we got. Right, no, not that one. But what happens when the bite happens? And we got music blasting in this video. It just happened to be that we got it. So this was 2 weeks ago. The bite absolutely went off. Can you guys see that I have it here? Videos about the play or no?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were out there fishing. The bite went off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun's going down. We caught 3. We went 2 for 3 on swordfish and caught an escalar. And the rod tip's going up and down right now. Now watch, something happens. Just stopped. Saw that? Something happened at that point in time. So something happened at that point in time when that rod tip came up. Everything's good. Everything's going. And then all of a sudden, the rod just went, whoop. What happened? I think what happened is fish came by, swam by, and said, hey, what's going on here? And not really whacked it, but he touched it with his body and he took the bait up a little bit. And now the rod just didn't have that tension at that point in time from the weight. He just tried it. Shortly after, I noticed it was a bite. I put my phone down. I moved the bait away. A lot of guys like to drop the bait on them, you know, open it up, open the bail, sink it down. You got to understand how far off bottom you are. You know, you turn the boat around, you're drifting. Johnny can just keep the rod there. You can go back and check bottom. I recommend it. I think the more you do it, the better odds you're gonna get. You know, kind of like bouncing a vertical jig on bottom. You know, I like to do that, but you have to be very careful here because in Miami, as you saw, there's a lot of canyons, and it goes from 1,400 feet to 1,800 feet and comes up in less than a quarter of a mile. And if you're not paying attention and you understand it, because if you get a southeast wind, remember, I'm just telling you guys in a perfect scenario with a west wind or a southwest wind where the current's just holding you guys and you're going straight north. There's days when you're going to drift from outside in and from inside out. You got to understand that where your bait is and what's going on. And then if you don't have a depth recorder, I highly recommend is hitting bottom, picking it up about 100 feet, 150 feet, and about 15 minutes later or 10 minutes later, moving it up, jigging it up and down the water column, and keeping it up. Because if you come into 1,300 feet, man, and if you're not using, you know, an LP that holds, when I buy line for this, it's 3,000 yards. You know, I buy Daiwa J-Braid, which is probably the best price and the best, you know, I've had zero issue with it. But you hook bottom out there, you're using a hooker electric 80 wide. Yeah, you might have enough for one more drop, but if you hook bottom again, you're done fishing for the day. With this, you can hook bottom like 6 times and you're still good, you know? So, but
I'm sorry, when you use the boats and you're driving against the currents, are you trolling or you maintain the position?
you're actually trolling. So at that point in time, I actually take a bait and throw it out. A rapala, a ballyhoo, a squid, you know, throw it behind the boat. Mahi come up and eat all the time, and it gets pretty crazy. You know, the mahi show up, and you know you got a rod in the water. You gotta pay attention to because you don't want it to touch the boat. You got something sharp on there, you know, a loose screw on the boat, a barnacle on the boat, something that once that braid touches, yeah, it might not break it right away, but when you get tight on that fish, it's gonna pop. And you're gonna be like, what happened? And then you're gonna remember, oh man, that one time it touched the cleat and it had a little bit, you know, because when you get tight on a fish, if you got a weak point in your line, it will break. It will break. So let me show you guys something else. Here. So this is me on Martin Luther King Day. It was 5 minutes and we're fighting the fish. It's about a 12-second video.
You're not shared yet.
No, I know, hold on. Share screen. All right. You guys got it?
Yep.
All right. So a lot of guys like to leave the reel engaged. Right now, that fish is on there.
First drift, we're tight. The let off. Taking line.
We're tight on that fish. You don't just leave your reel engaged and keep going. You got to finesse her up. You know, that fish was actually hooked. I'll show you guys now. We ended up getting that fish and she was hooked on the dorsal. Yeah. She was actually hooked on the dorsal fin. You guys see it?
Oh,
You guys
Yeah.
see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's actually a bonita swimmer that I like to use, which is a fold over bait, like you can see. It's got the hook in the middle of it, and what happens is it swims like a snake in the water. And when she whacks it, when she goes up to whack it, it doesn't, it holds together. Squid tends to break apart. Let me see. How do I get off this? No, stop sharing. Oh, stop sharing. All right, there we go. Sorry guys, I'm a millennial, but I'm not good with electronics.
How long does it take you to land a fish normally? Say 200 or 300?
All depends, man. I've had them in 20 minutes, and I've had them in the longest one I've ever fought. On day timing was about 3.5 hours, and we got her. And night timing, I recently fought one that was probably, I estimated like 400 or 500 pounds for 2.5 hours, and she came off by the boat. You know, you get one shot at them, you know, and normally that shot is right when you take that lead off. Take the lead off, she comes up, she's kind of still, I don't know what's going on, you know, oh, there's the boat, you know. Sometimes when they come out the boat charging, they're coming hard at the motors, you know, they want to see what hooked them, you know. If you hook a small one, you got a little short one on, a little rat that we like to call, get ready for a freaking mako to show up. Mako will show up if you leave that fish in the water long enough. And normally it's a big mako. And most of the time, you know, they're not going to eat a mahi that you caught earlier in the day out there, sitting out there. They're going to want a piece of that swordfish. So if your swordfish is a keeper, what I always tell people is just take the hook out of the swordfish and cut a piece of your tail out and put it on a hook like a snapper bait and throw it out there and she'll eat it. And if it's a long fin mako, you can keep it. And if it's a short fin, you gotta let it go. But it's an amazing catch. They do all kinds of crazy spins and stuff. You know, they're not fun to see when you're sword fishing, but once you got the swordfish in the boat, it's all good. You know, so with that, but you know, the fish. You know, what happens is that bite happens. And I like to tell people there's 3 kind of bites, you know, that can happen with that fish. You got to remember, you can fish it in 1,700 feet of water, and sometimes you got 3,000 feet of line out if you got a high current. And days that are good, you have 2,300 feet of line out, 2,200 feet of line out. That's the best you're going to get. There's guys out there that I know that they can probably do 2,100, but a lot of things have to happen. The guy driving the boat has to be good. The guy has to be on point. You know, a lot of things come into play with it because every move you make on top affects you downstairs. So, you know, with that, you know, so the 3 kind of bites that you have going on is, you know, the rod tip. Boom. All of a sudden the rod tip's going and something just happened, like I showed you guys, or it goes down with that. All right. Then you got the thunder bite. That's like, oh my God, you saw that, right? Boom. Just the rod just absolutely just freaking wants to load up and it's quick. That's the thunder bite. She came in there, she wants something, man, and she just whacked it. And then you got the one that's like, oh my gosh, did I lose the lead? What's going on here? And she pulls you slack. What happens is you're probably going down the bottom, or the first swordfish I ever caught on my own, I caught it like this. It was 4 years ago. It was on the way down. She ate it. Lead never hit bottom. All of a sudden, the rod tip, you know, you're hanging out, you're looking at the rod tip, and the rod tip just goes straight up. And you're like, oh, what happened? Did we lose the lead? Engage the reel right away. Try and come tight. Try and drive that hook, you know, because she's just ate the bait and she's just saying, ha ha. I mean, she's probably big because if you got a 10, 12 pound lead, and there's normally about 150, 200 pound fish swimming that up, you know. Every now and then you get a surprise, you know, pup that's like 80 pounds. I was like, holy moly, swam a 12 pound lead up. Wow. But most of the time it's 150, 200, you know, nice fish swimming that up. But what happens is you got to set your reel And I tell people all the time, it's better to lose the fish at the point of hookup than lose the fish 4 hours later, 2 hours later. I always like to put a lot of drag. Now, what's a lot of drag? Whatever reel you're using, I probably could catch shamu. You don't need that. You don't need 100 pounds of drag. Throw that mindset out the window, guys. The fish is big, but forget about putting max drag. I've done charters with people, and the guy wanted the hand crank one, and the guy didn't want to listen to me and was just holding it with his hand and not letting the line go out. And we got the fish. And the fish, but but I've seen them where people mess up and they put too much drag on the electric reel and boom, fish pops off, So you got your bite, fish is coming up. But what happens is whether it's a thunder bite or a little white or you think you see something, I always pull the bait away. You gotta understand this fish has no predator than the mako shark, that here and there. This fish all of a sudden is like used to going up to squid and just whacking them real quick or just inhaling them, because most of the squids they catch, yeah, some of them are chopped up, but out of 10, 7 of them are eaten whole. So that tells me that fish goes in there, man, and just freaking eats whatever it wants. So all of a sudden it hits your bait and you say, haha, well, that fish all of a sudden, there could be a cloud of squid down there. Whatever bait he just whacked that he wanted, he's going to come after it. And you're going to pull him away from whatever's going on for him else to eat, I think. And that fish is like T-Rex. He wants to hunt. He doesn't want to eat. He doesn't want to just sit there and just get free food. So all of a sudden, you just give him a challenge. That fish comes back. When I see the whack again, then I drop it and make it look like, okay, you got me. You got to think what's going on down there. The swordfish whacks it with his bill, and now the bait's either gonna cut it in half, which we don't want to happen, or the bait, in real life is gonna cut it in half, or it's just gonna fall down. So now you send your lead down. You gotta know how many feet you're off bottom, because this little game could last 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I've had one last 30, almost 45 minutes a couple weeks ago. The picture that you guys sent out for the invite was one of those fish, was one of those guys, and they'll play that game with you. And you drop it on him, and when you drop it, wait for him to whack it again, just leave it there, and then pick it up. And when I set it up, you got a 12-pound lead, and I got it set at 30 pounds of drag. Add that 12-pound lead, you're looking at 42 pounds of drag I'm putting on this fish. And I'm not stopping it until he freaking stops that reel. I get him on there, I come tight, at that point in time, you leave the boat in neutral. You don't do anything with the boat, just make sure you don't cross the line. You leave the boat in neutral, let the current push you, so it helps you come tight faster to drive that hook on that fish. If the fish slacks you and you don't get a chance to think, keep it at 30 pounds or 50, whatever it is that you want to do it, keep it there until you come tight and you feel that hook is driven in there, wherever it is, whether it be on the side of his face, whether it be through his eyeball, through his fin on top, or deep down in his gut. Wait until you feel that okay, I set that hook good. So you stay in neutral, all that. Once you see that you've come tight on the fish, if the fish is swimming you up, you're going to be doing, I call it rodeos. You're going to be chasing that fish all the way around. It's like a freaking Texas rodeo. He's going to come up, he's going to dance, he's going to do a fucking beautiful show, take your cameras out and get ready, because that fish is going to jump. But, you see the bite happens, get tight, and then I like to swim them up. So what I like with swimming it up is getting in slack. Let them come up on their own. I've already driven that hook. I got 50 pounds, 40 pounds, and that first 2 minutes, I got a lot of drag. I pulled a lot off. I'm not gonna lie. I pulled a lot on. People are like, bro, drag. And I'm, no, man, because I want to make sure that hook isn't good. If it's gonna pull out, I wanted to pull out now and not next to the side of the boat with the Debbie Downer of the night for you guys driving home. Oh, fuck. It was right there. Nah, man. Pull the hook right then and there and get it over and done with. And it won't be the first and it won't be the last. What I say about every swordfish that gets away with that. So you get that fish up, you got them drilled now, I call it, and now you just back off the drag a little bit. I go to about 18 pounds, and if I see that he's gonna start running, start back off the drag a little bit more. Remember, you got a 12-pound lead on there. You got to know how many pounds it is that the reel's gonna, the way the reel acts. You're out there drifting. You look at it. Okay, if I put it like on the LP, you got notches 1, 2, 3, and 4. Put it at 2 and see what it looks like. It's just fighting the lead, what it looks like. So for calibrating your mind with that. back off the drag. The fish wants to run, keep it nice and tight, you know, but make sure it's good and bring it back. I brought it all. I've got him to swim up, and I've had 12 pounds of drag, and with a 12-pound lead, I got him to swim up and gotten the lead right there in my hand and snuck them right in. What I've realized is with all these fish is that the more you tug on them and the more you piss them off, they want to come at your boat faster. If you take it nice and easy and sneak them up, what I call it, let them swim the lead up, because your lead's down here and the fish is swimming up. So he's getting pulled from down here. Right now, you're not doing anything other than picking up the slack from the lead. The lead's doing all the work for you. Boom, you start swimming up, swimming up, swimming up, swimming up. You get the lead off. Now, once you get the lead off, back off the drag. Go. If I'm bottom at 17, 18, 15 pounds, 16 pounds of drag, I like to go down, you know, another 2-3 pounds, you know, see how it is. If the client wants to put his hand and do it, fine. You know, I'll back it off a little more. But let the reel do the work, man. That's what I tell everybody. And eventually they're gonna come up nice and easy, and you're gonna get a shot at the harpoon shot. You don't need a harpoon. I highly recommend the harpoon because there's other animals that live down there that you catch. You know, I've caught wahoo, I've caught blackfin tuna. I've never caught a yellowfin. I've hooked bluefins out there, and I've never landed them. The last one that I hooked spooled my Daiwa OP 3000, the big gold reel spooled me. That and the other one, the line popped. What ended up happening was that when a fish slacks you off on an LP, that line is no longer coming in tight. So then after that fight's over with that fish, you got to make sure it's coming in tight. Put your hand, and I learned that. Put your hand and let it pack in tight, because when that fish takes off and runs again, man, and it gets buried in there, and there it went. And I've lost the only 2 bluefins that I've caught. I mean, I've hooked down here. I've caught a bunch up north, but down here that I've hooked, I've lost every time, and tackler error every time. So you got to be ready for those guys. But when that fish starts coming up, you get your lead off, nice and easy. Get them in, throw the harpoon, wait. You know, always throw behind the line, not in front of the line. Can't tell you how many sad stories I've heard of guys, you know, throwing in front of the line and hitting the fish, and yeah, the line popped, but now the fish is off and running with the harpoon line, and end up pulling the harpoon line out because you didn't get it in good enough, and yeah, 400 pounder got away. I've heard a bunch of those stories.
So let me ask you a couple of questions then, okay? You've done a great job. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
How long you been doing this?
So I've been sword fishing now about 5 years. I'm 30. I started when I was 25. I mean, Henry met me when I got out of college when I was playing baseball, and that's how I know Carlos's family through baseball. And you know, I started doing this right out when I was 23, and I heard about this, and I was like, man, I really want to catch a swordfish. You know, I've caught every freaking fish in the book. What do you mean that there's a monster that lives in our backyard that we can go get whenever we want? What do you mean? You know, and I just started doing it, man. And I there's a guy that I highly recommend. His name's Catmunt Mike. Does the same thing I do, man. And I refer everybody to him because I mean I got a Monday to Friday job, you know. So all the extra business that I get, I give to him. So I can't work Monday through Fridays. But you know, he taught me, and he's willing to show you guys the same way I am, you know. He goes on your boat, does it all, and he's the guy that got me into it. And now all of a sudden, man, me and him worked out a deal. Like, yo, I'll get you clients, and I'll get you lots of clients. I don't want no money. Just show me what you know. And he showed me everything. He opened his book, great guy, and showed me a lot. And you know, the more you go, the better you get. It's a sport like any other sport. You know, you could have been a great golfer 20 years ago, but you didn't play for 5 years, and now you get back and you're horrible, you know, and it's the same thing. You just got to go. And I tell this to everybody. You ain't going to catch a swordfish sitting on the couch. Got to go out there and try. And it's okay to make errors out there. You know, it happens to everybody. The best guys out there, the RJ Boyles of the world, the guy that was the king of swordfish here, and before daytime he started, and Nick Stanzik took it away from him. You know, they're still one of the best guys. He's got a thing that, you know, that he updates, and I watch it. It's called RJ Boyle's Crew, and you pay like $32 a month, and he's got videos and how to do things, trolling planers, doing all kind. Highly recommended for you guys. Got all kinds of fishing in there, but specifically sword fishing. and what you need, and gets him more in depth in tackle and everything, more things. But I highly recommend that if you guys really want to continue pursuing this. It's an extra $30 a month, watch the videos, and I highly recommend it. But I started doing it, and one thing led to another, and I've always made it on boats. I've always been a mate. I jump from boat to boat. Sometimes get to go to the Bahamas, sometimes get to go to beautiful places. But and my boss asked me one day, like 2.5 years ago, he goes, "Hey man, your buddy's booked for I don't know how long. Can we go try?" And I said, "You know what, man? Let's go do it. Let's go make it happen." And the guy has a 47 Viking, and it's a completely different operation when you got a sport fisher than when you drop the bait. It's something completely. It's almost the same, but it's a lot harder because you got more wind, more mass in the wind, so you're moving way faster. It's a different ball game. Center console is the way to do this when you're starting. And we went out there and we were successful, and started finding friends that were willing to learn from what I knew, and let's learn together and let's figure it out, and let's get a big logbook together between all of us, and it's about 6 other guys that I swordfish with, and we all share information, and we all started more or less at the same time, and now it's a sickness, guys. It's freaking.
That's awesome. Well, I haven't been off the couch, but I feel like I've been about halfway there tonight with what you described.
What I'll tell you guys is that, like, we're just getting to the tail end of the season. I mean, they're here year round, but the big girls, they show up like in November and run through here now till like February. Still get some here in April, but they move down to the Keys, I think, now. I'm actually I don't know if you guys know Nick Stanzik. I'm actually fishing with him on Thursday. So I'm going to report from that. I'm fishing with him. Some of my friends booked the guy 4 years ago when I started doing this, so coincidentally enough, it's like, hey, bro, that's one of the guys why I started sword fishing. Let's go fish with him, and we all do the same thing at the end of the day. It's just there's 100 different ways to skin a cat, guys. So
quick question about before you were mentioning the transducer, 1 kVR, 1 kilowatts, 2, 3. How important is to have a good depth finder for this kind of fishing?
100% important, guys. I can't explain it enough. I get away with it because I have Seymour maps, and you got take a look at it on YouTube, guys, on Instagram. But I hire you guys that like to inshore. I know you guys do a lot of inshore. It's not really good for you guys, but for the offshore guys that want to go catch yellowtails and mangroves and groupers and muttons and get into deep dropping and things like that, it's really useful. But I know on my Seymour Maps unit what depth is what color, and I fished it enough that I know, like, the back of my head, okay, this hole's on the 40, on the 52, the 39, the 59 in front, the double zeros. I know all that area, that quadrant. As you go out there, you start going, holy moly, all my bites come between this time and this time, and then between the 39 and the 37 this time of year. Why? And I used to go out there and fish. All right, I'm gonna start at Fowey today, and go from Fowey all the way to Fort Lauderdale and come home at 8 o'clock at night, and just drift and find new areas to fish. And I realized, like, 2 years ago, it's like, screw that. Those fish sit in a certain area and they're there. And on tournament day, when I do my tournaments, for the reason why I'm always, on top in some category, because it's like, you got to work the area, Hey, you go back through, you didn't get a bite, go back in it again, stay confident, trust, what you've learned and what you've done. There's 100 ways to do this. This is still being developed every day. There's new things coming out there. The whole buoy rod thing, that's set it and forget it. Once you have your tip rod out, you let it out, slowly out like a normal bottom fishing rod, but you let it out super slow. And when you get to your buoy mark, that's 1,500 feet mark, or 14 or 1,300 feet, you put your lead on it the same way you put your bait out. You send the buoy way back, and it's pretty much fishing a whole different water column way behind the boat. But there's no bite, there's no nothing. It's like set it and forget it. The buoy's up there, and all of a sudden, when that fish pulls it, he either pulls the buoy down or he swims the lead up, which now there's no pressure on the line, so the buoy sits sideways, and you got to fish on. So there's 100 different ways to do it. I've talked to you guys about the bite and how to set the hook. A lot of people say that you got about a 50% chance that if you don't see the bite and you don't move the bait, that the fish is not going to come back. I highly agree with that. You got to be watching that tip. If you think you saw something, oh my God, goddamn, but move the rod. Move it 15, 20 feet. Moving it 5 feet is not gonna do anything, guys. 15 to 30 feet, move it, and nothing happened. Okay, drop it back down 30 feet. Who cares? Move that bait. It's like inshore fishing, guys. You throw up against that mangrove and you're throwing that top water and you're jigging it. Same thing here, man. You're moving that bait. Whoop, up, down, up, down. So
Noel, can I ask a question? You said in a week or so the swords will be moving down to the keys. How long do they stay in the keys before they start moving back?
they coming up from up north. They're coming up from Rhode Island, Boston, up that area. If you notice the guys that fish, you know, up there, the commercial guys, all those guys, you start seeing pictures and stuff. Oh, these guys went out and caught, you know, 4 big eye tunas that were 300 pounds, 400 pounds, and they caught 2 swordfish that were 300, you know, a phenomenal day, you know, just things unheard of, you know, and that's happening here. And those fish hang up there. Nobody knows their pattern, you know. Everybody's got such an obsession with freaking sharks that the swordfish get no love. And I tag swordfish. I tag swordfish all the time. You know, sometimes I don't tag them. I go a couple weeks without tagging them because if I get a good one, Cuban problem, I want to eat, you know. So I got friends that want to eat, you know. So we do, but you know, typically anything under 100 pounds we don't kill and we tag it. The O-Search program has a satellite tagging program that they put on other sharks, and RJ Boyle and I think Nick Stanzik have tagged a few swordfish. And what we've noticed is on those satellite tags that they follow the great white migration. The great white showed up a couple months ago down here, people, and recently, I want to say like 3 weeks ago, showed up in Marathon. Once I saw that tag go off, I knew, hey, that's it. The bite's gonna start going off in the Keys. And if you guys watch Nick Stanzik on YouTube, you know, he posts all his every time he catches pretty much. I mean, he went 4 for 5 a couple days ago, you know. So something happens with that. They're escaping that cold water this time of the year. They're migrating down, and we do have resident fish. Most of our resident fish are small fish, you know, anywhere between 80 to 150. Now I say 150 is small, but that's because I'm spoiled, you know, and I commercial fish and I look at it as a different way. But 150-pound fish is a good fish, guys.
Yeah.
But you do catch a lot of small fish, and I can't tell you how many times I show up fishing, and I got like 5 of my friends all fishing in a general area, and we're all talking on the radio, and I show up when that moon's coming up, and I drop down and I catch 2 small rats, and that's the only 2 fish that are caught all day. You know, it happens sometimes. You know.
How would you say the swordfish population is? Is it healthy or?
I would not say it's healthy, not at all. That's why I tag a lot of fish. 10 years ago when this started, it was very healthy. A bad day was, I was actually having a conversation with Captain Mike today about it. A bad day was 3 bites. Today we wait all day for 1 bite. What does that tell you? Unfortunately, you know, I commercial fish and I look at it at 2 different angles. I don't long line. I don't do all these things. What I do is I put 35 buoys out and we catch swordfish. We catch 4 or 5 swordfish a night. A good night's, you know, 10 fish. All these guys that are long lining, there's about 25 guys that I know of that long line the bottom of the ocean. They're long lining right out front here. Even they tell you there's no long lining going on. And those are the guys that are really hurting the population down here. The buoy guys, they actually, believe it or not, don't even fish in Miami. We fish from Hollywood north, and we fish that area from there to Boca. When you look at it, you know, we got 5 guys out there, and any given good night, you got 5 by 35. You know, that's 35 hooks per boat, compared to a long line that's 5 miles with 3 million hooks, 3,000 hooks. You know, we're not doing anything. It's gonna take a long time, I think, for the sword fishing but I think if they don't put more regulations to it soon, it might affect us for the years to come. Now you go to the Gulf where they just figured out they have some, you know, the healthy amount there, you know. But again, it's one of the fish, you know, and you look at, you know, there's swordfish groups on Facebook that I recommend you guys get into if you're interested. They got guys all over the world, and you know, in Israel and stuff. I don't even know, in Italy, you know, and they catching them. You know, you can see the background in the back with the rod. They had just caught the fish. You know, I mean, they're catching them way closer, smaller fish. You know, maybe the bigger fish live here. You go to Australia, there's an abundance of fish over there, and all those fish are huge, 600, 700. I mean, those guys laugh at us because we use electric reels and they don't have current. So, but I think, with the tags and stuff, again, we don't know enough about swordfish. We could have a healthy amount of, and we have no idea because Nick Stanzik tagged a fish 2 years ago, and one of the guys that I worked with at night caught one. I caught like a month later up in Fort Lauderdale. 2 months later, another fish that was tagged recent in that same time frame, same 2 weeks, was caught in Cuba.
In Cuba. So they do migrate pretty good distances.
Yeah. So what we've seen is fish that were tagged down here. That satellite tag only comes out when the fin comes out of the water, and it has to be for a certain amount of time. It can't just be, it came out, bing. No, it's got to come out and stay so they can record all that stuff. Yeah, they could ping it and know, hey, it came out here, but they won't have the information that they need. And we've seen swordfish that were tagged here in Fort Lauderdale and have made their way all the way up to Massachusetts, that area, all the way up north there, all those wicked tuna guys, they all, and they come up on the surface up there too. But I think what happens is they come down all the way down, and right now they're in the Keys. Then they come and they wrap around and go into the Gulf and go hang out in the Gulf for a couple more weeks.
How far up in the Gulf do they go?
To be honest with you, I'm not real familiar with the Gulf. I think they fish for them there like at 1,200 feet of water, 800 to like 1,200 feet, depending. They don't have canyons like we do. You got to remember too. Those fish, they're fishing mud bottom. They don't have to deal with hooking bottom like we do. They just set it, put it in the mud. All right, there's the bottom. Pull it out and just leave it. And they don't have to drive the boat. They just point the boat south and that's it. They're good to go. The current's gonna take them the rest of the way. They don't have they have a half a knot current. Have nothing. And those swordfish go back into the Gulf and then they come back and shoot back around and they show up here again. Like I want to say like April, end of April, early May again. They start coming back. They turn around or May, June, and there's a couple good fish around. But what happens, I think, is since they're coming back to the Gulf, I don't think all of them come back up north. I think some of them go into the Bahamas and they take the ride that way. There's a lot of bait around at that time, a lot of mahi around, a lot of sargassum. A lot of yellowfin tuna in the Bahamas in the summertime. I think that's where they go. And then they come swimming back around and, who knows? I could be totally wrong, but, the information that we have that's public that I share with you guys, that's my theory on it,
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, they're found in the cold water.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's, I'm an ice whore. I tell people all the time, I'm going to Flamingo, or I'm going to go fish on the bridge in Channel 5, or I'm going to hang out here in Miami and peacock fish. I got some kind of ice, whether it's for my drinks or for the fish I'm bringing home. And these fish, if you're the type of guy like, hey, I always want to catch one in the first 5 minutes we get one, we're going home. Don't worry about ice, because by the time you get home, that fish is still cold. That's amazing how you cut that fish up and comes from those depths and how cold he is. I caught a 350 2 years ago, or in 2020, January 1st, I went out with a buddy of mine. We went out, man. We went to bed early after New Year's and we went out. And we caught a fish in the first drift with like a 150, put him in the ice box. And later on, like by the third drift, by 3 o'clock, caught a freaking 350. Within 45 minutes, came up, gapped him, put him in the boat. I went all the way to Haulover. The guy that I was fishing with was a commercial guy, and we went to go get the fish put away in Haulover. And man, people got there taking pictures. It's freaking January 1st, Haulover Inlet. I mean, it was, the Chinese were there. I mean, you name it, man. I would have been scared back then if it was COVID. And everybody taking pictures. And I'm looking, I'm like, bro, that fish, is gonna go. And the guy's like, don't worry about it. And when, it had already been about a good 2 hours when we cut that fish open. There was a pumpkin, number one. The meat was orange. And it was still ice cold. Ice cold. And it's amazing. So what I tell people is when you're out there and you get one, let's say, and your fish box is too small for it, just lay him on the side of the deck, throw a towel or a shirt or something cold, water from the ocean, throw it on top and keep him out of the sun. You'll be fine. Do another drift. You don't get a bite, go home. You can core the fish out if you want, but it'd be nice to take a picture at home with your fish. So I tell everybody. So with that, and that's daytime swordfish in a nutshell, guys. That's the best way I can explain it to you guys. There's nothing like going out there and trying it, and feel free to call me.
Well, tell us how we can get in touch with you.
You guys can call me. My phone number is 786-972-1032. And, I have a friend of mine. Say it again?
You have a website too, or no?
No, I just have an Instagram. I work with another captain that has a boat because what I do is I go on people's boats. But I work with another captain that he has a boat, and we take
So,
people.
but when you go with other people's boats, do you bring your own rod?
Yeah, I bring everything. I bring everything that you need. You know.
Giuseppe's got a new boat.
Say it again.
Giuseppe has a new boat.
Oh yeah, nice. What kind of boat do you have?
29 Everglades.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, man. What I bring everything. I mean, I bring the rods, I bring the harpoon. I would imagine you have a gaff. But I'll bring an extra gaff if needed. You know, and pretty much that's it, man. I got, you know, if you don't have electric plugs, I use a Hubble plug, which is this yellow one here. This is this yellow one right here. But if you don't have plugs, it's fine because I just connect to the batteries. I have a thing that I put on the batteries, connect my Hubble plug to, and I guess like an extension cord to go directly into the batteries. But yeah, I bring everything that you need. And if you don't have a boat, I can set something up. You guys can reach out to me and I can help set you guys something up. I have another guy that I work with has a 27 World Cat, very wide boat, very comfortable boat to swordfish on. And we can go out there and make it happen. You know?